So this is not the video I was planning on making this week. I had great intentions of recording a couple of kind of well-planned, well-structured videos today to last me over the next couple of weeks while I pack and move from the UK back to Ireland. And between one thing and another, I just haven't been in the right headspace. I haven't really had the time either, but mostly it's just about being in the headspace to actually sit down and think about anything, because some of the videos that I was thinking of doing required actually reading things and thinking about them and planning. And I think as well, I just haven't really been thinking much about spirituality in the past few weeks. I've been focusing a lot more on, mundane reality, various PhD related obligations, and people, my friends that I'm leaving behind when I leave here. So I guess there's been enough going on in my head that thinking about my spirituality, honestly, in general, I mean, I know my last video was actually about how strong my spirituality has been recently. It doesn't feel that way in the last maybe 2 weeks, because even doing meditation, my daily meditation has become kind of very much, it's dropped on my priority list. Let's just put it like that. Like, I'm still doing it every day, mostly 5 minutes, and it's mostly at the very end of the day before I go to bed, because I just don't get around to it to that point. And everything has just kind of descended into emotional chaos. I don't mean like that everything's chaotic and emotional because it's emotional, but I mean that like emotionally it feels chaotic. My head is just not fully functioning. There's just a lot going on that I wasn't expecting. So I think what I'm just going to do today is to talk very briefly about the move and the chaos, and just give you a bit of an update, because I think that's all that I'm really capable of offering you this week. And hopefully, I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to record the next video for next week, because I actually move this day, so the day that this video will go up will be a week from the day that I move country. So I'm going to have something pre-recorded for that day, obviously. And I'm hoping that later in this week, maybe I will pull myself together a bit and manage to do something a little bit more coherent, but I'm just going to have to wait and see. And I do want to pre-record a couple more videos as well, because I want to take a little bit of a break when I get back to Ireland, so that I have space and time to just decompress and feel whatever it is that I'm going to feel when I get back there, because right now I'm not really sure what that is. So I'm not going to go into anything too personal. There's definitely been elements of this experience of saying goodbye to people and so on that has been surprising, and that has brought up a lot of things that I wasn't expecting to be feeling as I'm leaving. I know that over the summer that I was feeling very positive about moving away, and that I was really looking forward to going back to Ireland and building a life there. Right now I'm finding it hard to find that optimism. I'm finding it very hard to remember all the things that I was excited about moving back to Ireland. This is not to say that I feel like it's a mistake. I don't feel like necessarily I should be staying here either. It just feels like this kind of weird liminal kind of zone, and I don't know if anyone who's moved country a lot might be able to relate to this, or if you've ever had this kind of juncture in your life where you're kind of about to move towards something new and you're leaving something behind and nothing feels quite right. But that's kind of how it feels right now. Like, it doesn't. Yeah, and I think I thought that I would have a lot more of a kind of sense of calm, and I remember what it was like to move out of my last apartment, for example, when I was living in Ireland, and I remember having this sense of sort of nostalgia and calm, and spending a lot of time sitting in that room, thinking about all the years that I had spent there, and reminiscing and just kind of working through in my own head how I had changed as a person while living there, everything that had happened while I was there, and feeling quite emotional in a very positive kind of way, like feeling grateful for everything that place had given me, and being quite ready then to move forward. And I was going into kind of a little bit of a waiting period and then moving on to Edinburgh. So there was this sense of great excitement, I suppose, in the future, of this idea that I was going to turn into this different person that I hadn't met yet, that I didn't know how that was going to pan out. This time it hasn't felt like that. I don't feel, I've been too preoccupied with a couple of specifics and specific emotional stuff, and I haven't really had the emotional and mental space to do that kind of sitting and journaling and thinking about my life more generally here in Edinburgh and what it means for that to be coming to a close, and how I should be feeling about that. And maybe it's just too big to look at. I think back in Dublin, it was like I was saying goodbye to just a very specific portion of my life, but in Dublin, and Dublin wasn't going to go anywhere. When I left, I kind of thought that I would go back, and this time I'm just saying goodbye to this very specific segment of my life that I will actually never have back again. I'm never going to be in this place again. I'm probably never going to live in Edinburgh again, and the relationships that I have with people here are going to change, and it's never going to be as it is now. And this has been a very kind of contained portion of my life with, you know, I was doing very, very different things and spending time with very different people to anything I'd ever done before in my life, and as a result have felt like a very different person in a lot of ways, and I don't really know how to deal with that. I don't really know how to process that and how that works. It's like, it's just too much. It's too much to kind of process all in one go, I guess, and feel like I've adequately taken that in and taken that on board and figured out what it is and what it means for me. This 4 years of my life has been the most tumultuous and the most changeable. I've had the most people come and go. The people that I was spending the most time with in my master's here, like my first year here, are not necessarily the people I'm spending time with now. One of them is, but honestly, most of them I'm no longer in touch with even. Yeah, in fact, most of the people that I was closest to for the first 2 to 3 years over here, I am no longer even in touch with. And then the last 12 to kind of 18 months has been very different. I've had a slightly different cast of close friends that became very much family to me. I don't know, I think it was a kind of friendship that I haven't had in a long time, the kind of thing that I was hoping to get here, that I was hoping to have a cohesive group of friends that would meet regularly. You know, we have this weekly meetup in a specific place, specific time, every week, and that I really, really wanted that when I moved to Edinburgh around the time that I was kind of getting sick of Ireland and wanting to do something new. I really wanted that experience again because I hadn't had it in a long time. And I don't know if looking back on it, I'll feel like I didn't appreciate it enough at the time, and didn't appreciate those people enough at the time, maybe. But that has been its own thing as well. And even within that kind of 18 months, people have come and gone, very much so. There have been people that have come into my life and gone out again. And then recently, some of those ghosts have been resurfacing, and it's been strange. It's been strange. And like I say, it's been very, very hard I can't put a single feeling or a single explanation or even a single trajectory onto this experience here, because I don't really feel like it's led me anywhere. I think the fact that I'm returning to Dublin after this experience, and I'm returning with most of a PhD written, but not with anything else, and it doesn't really feel like I've necessarily gained anything here apart from just the experience and the people that I've met. And because I'm like moving back to Ireland, and I'm not probably going to be able to stay as close to those people as I am now, it just feels like a lot of loss and a lot of like, what was all of this? What was the point of all of this? And what am I supposed to take from it? What am I supposed to have learned from it? I'm not sure. And I think that's a big reason why I'm struggling to be able to process things and to be able to think straight. And I think I'm a very story-driven person. We all are. But I'm a particularly story-driven person. It's what I do. I write stories. I write songs that are miniature stories. I write, and novels that are longer stories. And it's how I understand my life, and it's how I kind of structure things in my head. I like things to have kind of a coherent narrative, and I will construct narratives to make sense of things. And I can't make sense of the narrative of Edinburgh yet. I think it's something that will only make sense in hindsight, maybe. That I'll be able to turn it into a coherent narrative, a coherent part of my life that makes sense, that provided a specific function or something in my life going forward. But I think it's just like the future is so open and so uncertain, and yet familiar in weird ways, that because I'm returning back into a place that I've already known, it feels very odd. Very, very odd. And if I was writing this as a novel, there would be something or someone or some experience or some feeling or some lesson that I would be bringing from Edinburgh, you know, managing to sort of pack up with all of this physical stuff and take with me back to Dublin. And that just hasn't been the case. It just hasn't been the case. So I'd be curious to know how you have dealt with this kind of experience in your lives. I mean, I think we've all had these kind of experiences of coming to the end of something, of an experience, of a home, of a place, and moving away. And how have you ever had these kind of times where it feels like you can't quite make sense of it when it's coming towards the end, that you can't quite wrap it up in a neat kind of package and neat narrative and feel satisfied that you've accepted that experience into your heart and are ready to kind of move on from there? It's times like this that I kind of wish sometimes that I had a slightly different worldview or spiritual beliefs. I kind of wish that I believed in something like fate or in some kind of interventionist God, because I feel like then sometimes it's easier to accept and embrace when you're letting go of something old and moving forward to something new, because there's more of that kind of teleological sense of progression, and that it's a positive thing to be letting something go and moving forward because this is how it's meant to be, and that something has led you to this point and will take you forward, and that over time you will see this logic to it all, because there is a logic. Whereas generally speaking, most of the time, that's not how I feel. That's not how I see the world working, and it all just feels a lot more random. It just feels like a bit of a random choice. There have been times sitting here in this very window when I have felt like I might stay here in Edinburgh forever, or stay, you know, in Scotland or in the UK forever if things went that direction. I think most of the time I haven't, and it just feels like an almost random sequence of events that led me to the feeling that I just wanted to get out of this country and that I wanted to return home, whatever that means. And I do wish actually that I maybe had been able to just up and out sooner, back when I first made that decision, because I think it was clearer in my head. I think I was more solid in my decision. It felt maybe more like a kind of progression or something that was meant to be back in maybe February, when I was first starting to, I kind of made the decision in December, but then back in February I kind of visited Dublin a couple of times and had this overwhelming sense that this was the right thing to be doing, and that it made sense in my kind of narrative, and that it was the right time. And of course it's been, you know, more than 6 months since then, and I thought that I would do all of this stuff in Edinburgh and feel satisfied that I'd be able to tie up loose ends. But how do you tie up loose ends in a life? Because I feel like I've had this whole life here in Edinburgh that's been separate to anything else I've done, and how do you do that? How do you even tie up those loose ends? And it's been strange. So I do kind of wish at times like this. When I was first moving to Edinburgh, I was in a phase of my life where I was again feeling a bit like I did maybe believe in fate in some way. I felt like there was maybe some kind of guiding hand, and that really helped me settle here and work through the kind of, because I had a lot of stuff happening in my personal life when I first came here to Edinburgh, people coming and going in my life, and it was a lot going on, and I felt bolstered by this sense that I had been brought here for a reason, that even if it wasn't like an external entity or deity or anything necessarily who kind of brought me here, I felt like I had this faith in some part of myself knowing something, that there was a part of me that could know something about life and about like the trajectory of my life, and somehow know that this was the right thing at this time, and somehow know that the universe, or that this was the right thing and it was going to lead me to the best version of my life, and so on. And yeah, that would be really helpful at this time. But maybe it's just never as simple as that. Like maybe when you are saying goodbye to something, it's never or very rarely clear cut, and there are always doubts. There are always things that could have been different. But yeah, I think that's why I haven't necessarily felt like my spirituality has been giving me a lot of comfort at this time, because I don't necessarily believe in fate. I don't necessarily believe that I'm being led to do anything in particular, and so I don't believe that there is one correct thing or place for me to be going, thing for me to be doing. It just feels a bit like I'm cutting away from all the possibilities that living in this country or staying in this country might offer me. And therefore moving towards, I guess, all the possibilities in Ireland. And I mean, that should be a positive thing, because I do feel I'm in a very, very liminal space where I no longer believe in the possibilities of Edinburgh. I no longer have this strong feeling in me that I did for a while here, that there's something there waiting for me to discover here, in this city, in this life here. But yeah, I just wish I could recapture that sense that there's something waiting for me to discover back in Dublin, because right now it just feels a bit, I don't know, maybe I'm just going to need another adventure. Maybe after I get back to Ireland I won't be able to settle, and I will want to up and leave and go somewhere new again for a while, because maybe I'm not ready to return to that, the childhood home that I'm going to kind of take over from my parents eventually. Maybe I'm just not ready for that. Maybe it's too easy or something. It just doesn't seem, it's a challenge in one way and then not enough of a challenge in another. It's like a huge challenge. It's the challenge of the return and building the rest of your life. It's enormous as a challenge, but also it's maybe too easy. It's very easy to just fall back into the fold, fall back into the familiar. And I don't know what that's going to be like. I don't know how I'm going to feel when it happens. Right now, like I say, I'm very upset about things that I wasn't expecting to be, not upset enough about the things that I thought I would be, and just really struggling to figure out what the hell is going on in my head. So yeah, I'm going to leave this there. I feel like I haven't made a video as vulnerable as this in a long time with the channel. I'm not totally sure how I feel about that, but I wanted to give you something this week. I didn't want to just let the week slide, and this was all that I had to offer. This is all that I have in my heart right now. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're in a little bit of a better place than I am right now. And yeah, hopefully I will be back again next week. I don't know what that's going to look like. I guess we'll find out when it comes. Yeah, thanks so much for being here as always. I'll talk to you again soon.